Welcome back to another episode of the Decision Hour, folks. I'm your host, Adam Bird, and I am stoked about the interview that we got lined up for you today. And for those of you that are listening to this, you're going to have to check the video out, the first video episode that we've done of the Decision Hour in the 9 years that I've been doing this particular show. And it's a special one for me, not because we're doing it live, but because I got a friend of mine that has agreed to take time out of his busy day to join us today. He is a phenomenal individual. He is a master of home studio. He's got a home studio mastery. I want you guys to look that up. My friend Junaid. Junaid, how are you, sir?
Adam, I'm doing great, man. You know, as you're introducing yourself, and I'm tripping all over my words lately for some reason. You know, you said, this is Adam Bird. And the word bird reminded me of a song from Family Guy.
Of course it did.
Right. And it's like I haven't heard that song in so long, and we've been talking back and forth for so long. It just didn't click till just now. It's like so weird.
This moment. Nice. Folks, you're in for a real treat today. I love it when we have our conversations, man. It is so much fun.
Yeah.
Let's dive into this. Tell the viewers, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Junaid, like Lemonade. I mentioned earlier, I'm a tech enthusiast by heart for the past many, many years. The first time I discovered computers was when my dad brought home a computer, and I was just totally blown away. And since then, I've been on the track of learning every single day. In fact, I've been learning something brand new, Fabric. It's a whole different system of how to use AI, but regardless, I've been a tech enthusiast, a photographer, a filmmaker, and as I've been going through my evolution of technology, learning and adapting and implementing, I've been helping folks along the way, podcasters, people with websites, people launching podcasts, people setting up their video studios, and that's what I've been helping with. I figure out the technology part of the things so that you don't have to.
And I can speak from experience on this, and because you've helped me tremendously the last couple months trying to get the home studio, and it's better than what it was in the past. We're still working on, I still got to get some more lights and whatnot, but it has been a learning process for me, especially when you gave me some pointers when I was doing my live. You said, hey, get a teleprompter. And I'm like, why? And then, but you don't call it a teleprompter. You call it
I call it a confidence monitor.
Yeah, a confidence monitor. And it makes so much sense when you say it that way. And I've noticed in using it, it's so much different. The quality is the videos are better that I'm putting out. Two, I'm looking at the camera as opposed to looking left or looking right to, reading off of a screen or whatnot. Mm-hmm. And and you make it easy. One of the things that I absolutely love is when you explain stuff, you're very patient, and there's times where like, oh, this guy thinks I'm an idiot, blah blah blah. But you explain it in such a way that a 5-year-old can put it together, and you don't make me feel insecure or stupid by like you're so friendly and you're so outgoing and you're upbeat. You can tell you're very passionate about what you do.
I absolutely am. I mean, technology is something that's going to continue to evolve. Yeah. And we can see that in just past 2 years, what AI has been able to do to the entire industry of social media, of the entire tech company is totally changing, and it's going to continue to evolve.
Right.
So being the person who's on the cutting edge of technology, I want to be as patient enough to make sure that everybody that's following me and is also, I'm also bringing them along the way.
Yeah.
Because the more people understand how to use this, how to decipher this thing, the better they can get their message out to the public.
AI is AI replacing things, or is it more used as a tool to expand and make things a little easier for people?
I think it's a combination of the two. It's replacing repetitive tasks that we had to do in the past,
Right.
right? So it's replacing that. It's making you more efficient. It's making you more productive, and it's saving you so much more time so that you can spend more time with your kids. Like before I jumped on, I was like, sorry, I was just making pancakes for the kids because I've already spent the time in the space that I have for studio unit to record.
Right.
Quick story. So I was on a call with my aunt the other day. My mom and my aunt, they were just hanging out. And my aunt she watches my stuff on YouTube and on Facebook, and she's telling my wife, she's like, I think it's time to get him a new shirt. Because I've been wearing this style, right? This shirt. It's not the same shirt. I mean, I have a couple of copies of these or whatever. And just yesterday, I had a podcast recording at 5 a.m. with somebody in Australia. I woke up at 4:58. I'm like, oh crap, I need to jump on camera. So guess what? I didn't have to think about what I need to put on.
Right.
I just grabbed the shirt, put it on, walk down, turn on the camera, and I'm ready to record the podcast.
I love that. I got several shirts. Well, it's a branding thing too. I mean,
It's the branding thing, yeah.
it's a branding thing, and it's like you want a couple of those, especially. And here's a quick backstory. So I met Junaid August. Was it August when we were in Denver?
I think it's August in Denver.
Yeah. We met in Denver in August at Podcast Movement, and we were both attending that event. You were showcasing some stuff there, and I got the pleasure of meeting you. And we just kind of hit it off. We became friends and been friends ever since, what I'm super grateful for. And it's been, moving forward, us both being podcasters, watching your content and stuff like that. You recently authored a book.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the book. And for those of you that don't know, you can find the book. Well, go ahead and tell them the website, but I got a copy of it right there.
Yeah, so it's available on different places, but you can find it at homestudiobook.com. It'll just take you directly to the page. You can get a PDF version or a printed version. I'll personally sign every single one of them that you order from that site and, mail it out to you. But the idea came from it because I've been helping people set up their spaces for the past 3 years.
Yeah.
And I get these questions all the time. After talking to like 400 people, it's like, okay, it's like questions are the same. Don't want to know what's the next camera to get, what lighting to get, what do I do with my space? I've got my studio set up. What can I do now with it? So all of these questions kept coming out. I was like, well, what would be a better way to easily grab that information? Now, cool thing about books is that we are attracted to books at a very young age. I have a 1-year-old, 2-year-old now. He's reading books, right? He's going through this
Nice.
Goodnight Moon book when the rabbit's putting to sleep. So anyways, we at a very young age are acclimated to books.
Right.
So I was like, why not if I create a book? It'll be so much easier for people to just grab it, learn about it, go through their journey. So I said 7 stages of home studio evolution, because we all go from one stage to the next stage to the next stage. It's almost like you're not always going to be perfect, which is totally fine.
Right.
It's the part of the authenticity and the humanity of us. We're constantly growing. So like, where are you at? So you can open the book. There's a little questionnaire in the beginning that basically tells you, okay, you're at this level and you can go to this next level. And so you can kind of get an idea of where you are and how to get. So that was the inspiration behind the book. Now, for the longest time, I didn't have the book, but I had all these questions and I just didn't know how to put it all together. And I was going through this email from Robert Kiyosaki, and it says 7 stages of investor. Like, what stage of an investor are you? I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. So of course, I grabbed the PDF, I gave it to ChatGPT. I'm like, hey, I'm the home studio architect. Here's all my information. How can I do this so that this is, I'm taking this ideology from this PDF or this downloadable and applying it into what I do. So that was a fun project, for the past 3 months. They came to a really good a book, yeah.
And I love it because when you go through the book, it's like it's large lettering, very easy to read, very very easy to read. And there's different stages of it, which I thought were really cool. Whether you're the hobbyist, the semi-pro, the expert, the broadcaster, and it goes in so many different stages. And after each one, you kind of got like a little note section or like a little workbook section where people could take notes and write stuff down. And it was, it's an easy read. I got to read through it, and I was like, oh, there's, I would never consider myself an expert in anything, and that's just me personally. I'm probably near that when it comes to just from the broadcasting side of things. I've been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
But then looking back at like even at the novice, I was like, oh, I totally missed that side of things. So I thought it was really cool how you pieced it together and then how people can implement it very easily into their own studio. So I think that's really cool.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Totally appreciate that.
What's I got to ask. I know you get questions all the time today, and I'm trying to do this in a perspective of like I know what he's gonna say. What's the most common question that you get from people that want to build a home studio?
Well, the first thing they want to know is what camera am I using, because I think the camera is a solution.
Right.
And sure, it's part of a solution.
Right.
Right. But you need the audio, you need the camera, you need the lighting, you need all of those things to come together. It's almost like you're trying to play in a band, but you only know how to play one instrument.
Right.
Well, you need the other band members, right?
I love that.
I mean, we've all seen Charlie Puth's videos on TikTok and how he layers and creates a track.
Right.
But he's adding those different elements into that song, like the switch song. I just love how he clicks on the actual wall switch to add in that into the music. Like he's layering those elements into the song. So you need the drums, you need the bass, you need the guitar, you need the vocals, and that's the talent, right? Word of the talent. You need all of those things, and then you gotta have some kind of rhythm to come together. Now, what's funny is that this is the first time I've compared a home studio to a band or a music, right? So new stuff comes out, I just want to make sure that you understand.
It makes sense though, and I think for those that are listening, or those that are contemplating and starting a podcast, or maybe you have a podcast and you're wanting to build your home studio, here's the nice thing about this is Junaid goes over the information in the book. He gives things that he uses at different levels of it as well. And here's the thing: for those that are beginning, I unless you have stupid money to just throw away, you don't have to do it in pieces. Get into a groove with it, because a lot of people are like, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to get 10,000 downloads. Everybody's going to know who I am. I'm going to be the next Joe Rogan. I'm not going to take your dream away from you. Good on you. In reality, what's going to happen is you're going to start, you'll get frustrated. It happens. Stick with it. And eventually, you can continue to build. You don't have to dump in a whole bunch of money at first going into it. And I think that's what I really like about this is that you do it in different stages. And a lot of the stuff you get to the expert stage, you could still use a lot of the stuff that you had at the novice or the beginner stage. I remember the first question I asked you is like, am I using the right camera? And you're like, you're not using anything. You don't have lights. You don't have and it was so, I was like, yeah, that's so true. Like I think I had like some little web cam, and I remember you explaining the focus and stuff on it, and it made sense to me. And I really think this is going to be a hit. It already is. I know we were talking before we started the recording that we have some mutual friends that are already on board with this
Yeah.
as well. It's something that we promote here at Heroes Media Group as well. Junaid's a network sponsor, part of the HMG family. We love having him on and working with some of the other shows. I think this is just really, really cool. And okay, here's a fun question. What is the smallest studio you've ever built? And then what's the largest studio you've ever built?
I love that question. The smallest studio that I've worked in, it was probably a 6 foot by 10 foot depth. So maybe 8 foot deep and then 6 foot wide.
Oh, wow.
And this is a customer of mine, and he's like, "Hey, I don't want to take too much space in my basement, but I have this nice little corner that I can set up my studio." I'm like, "All right, let's do it." So I'm using the length of that space as the depth. So the camera is one end of the space, and then there's the depth, so you can see that room feels bigger based on how we set it up.
Yeah.
And then the width is wide enough for him to stand in there and have enough room around him. So that's the smallest space that I worked with. And the largest space that I'm working with right now is like a 20 foot by 15 foot, where we're setting up 4 different cameras,
Oh, wow.
5 different cameras for a 4 people setup. So again, the idea is people just walk in, sit down, press the record button, and start having a conversation. And everything is mic'd and lighting is in place, so that we're trying to reduce friction. Anytime you have friction to do anything at all,
Yeah.
you're not going to do it. Almost like my cycling career, which is on pause because my bike's in the workshop, my shoes are upstairs in the garage, my my trainer is down here. I'm like, I got to put all this stuff together. Where's my clothes? There's probably one in the closet. So if I had all of those things lined up in one place and just come in, put on, and ready to go, you want to cut down that friction. Almost like in NASCAR, you have split seconds to change those tires and add gas, and then you get back on the road.
Yeah. Let me ask you something, Janae. When I've obviously been doing this for a long time, and when I think about home studio, I think a lot of people think of like TriCasters, and you need a big elaborate setup, and you need multiple people helping you to do that. That's not really the case for guys like us, though, is it?
Not anymore, no.
So you make it very, very simple. Do you need a TriCaster, or can you manage everything from your computer at this point?
So just a backstory on the TriCaster. TriCaster were heavy-duty computers that can bring in multiple video sources, and then you can stream. Now, that was almost 10 years ago. Technology has evolved so much that you can literally live stream high-quality video from your camera using your iPhone or using your iPad. Like, technology has come that far. You don't even need a powerful, like, you can use, especially with the introduction of these Apple silicone chips.
Yeah.
Those machines are so fast. I'm recommending everybody to get the MacBook Air 2020, which has the M1 processor. You can pick these up for like $600.
Yep.
And these will do excellently well for all of the things that you need to do for your video production, for your podcasting needs and whatnot.
Janae, you're also a podcaster. For those that are listening, where can they find your show? What's the name of your show, and where can they find it?
Absolutely. So my podcast is on literally all the platforms. Just look for Hacks and Hobbies, Passion to Profit Stories, or just Hacks and Hobbies, or hacksandhobbies.com. You can find it. We publish twice weekly episodes on there, interviewing other guests that I've had the chance to interview.
And social media platforms, where do you want people, if those that are listening that want to follow you,
Sure.
give your website and your social one more time.
Yeah, my social is at Super Junaid on all of the platforms. Just look up Super Junaid, even superjunaid.com. I'm really active on Facebook Messenger. That's my place. That's where I talk to my people all the time. But I'm, all the platforms.
And the website one more time for us.
superjunaid.com or hacksandhobbies.com.
Perfect. What else? What do you want the listeners and viewers to know?
Depending on which part of the journey you're in, if you're thinking about, I like the name of your podcast, Decision Hour. This is the Decision Hour, right? This is your time to decide where you want to be in the world. What do you want to be known as? 3 years ago, I didn't know that I was going to be that I wanted to be known as the home studio architect. But now people know that because I've been on that track. So first of all, decide what you want to be, then take action.
Yeah.
Because there's if you've decided something, like I decided 2 years ago, I'm gonna do more YouTube, but I didn't really take any action, so I didn't have a lot of YouTube content, right? But so decide and then take the action. And if you are having trouble taking the action, find the people that are going to encourage you to take that action.
Good to have a support group.
100%.
Such as yourself. I got one more question for you, my friend. You stated, show's called The Decision Hour. We have to make decisions every day. Name a time in your life where your feet are on the line and you have to make that decision. What is it, and what's the atmosphere like at the time?
Dang. All right. I have really bad memory. It's not really bad. But I think it was a time for me to decide and start the podcast, right? So in 2012, my cousin and my brother-in-law, we started a podcast called Still Brewing It. And it's easier to do a podcast when you have two people around, but it's not really easy to continue doing the podcast when they're not as committed as you are.
Right.
And so we managed to pump out like 4 episodes back in 2012. We didn't have technology like StreamYard or Zoom or anything. But then I kept saying, hey, let's do it. Let's keep doing it. But then like the heart wasn't in it. Fast forward to 2018, a friend of mine came to me like, hey, I want to start a podcast. So I started doing research, ran into Anchor. And I was like, wow, this is a cool app. I downloaded the app and I was like, I'm going to do a podcast. But I still didn't know what it was going to be. And it was decision time. Like, okay, you either do it or you don't. And what pushed me over the edge was Gary Vaynerchuk's book, Crushing It. It was the end of the book. And he said, hey, just document your journey. Keep it simple. Keep it casual. You don't need to go all out. And even though I had bought the microphone and everything to start the podcast at home, that's not where I started recording. I started recording on my phone in my car.
Yes.
I was like, it doesn't matter what the podcast is called as long as I take the action of actually doing something. So that was the first action I took. I called the podcast. I didn't know what to call the podcast. And my friend was like, why don't you call it Queen Bee? And you could talk about, Queen Bee. I'm like, yeah, the Queen Bees. You can't have a hive without a Queen Bee. He's like, no, Beyonce. Like, what? Beyonce is Queen Bee? So I apologized to Beyonce on that first episode. Like, sorry, I didn't know you're a Queen Bee. And then, that was the start of the podcast. And you can still find that first episode on the podcast, Hacks and Hobbies.
I love it. Brother, thank you so much for taking time today.
100%.
Folks, we're going to have all of Junaid's contact in the show notes below. And make sure you grab his book. We'll also link that in the show notes below. Before we let you go, make sure you go check out our parent network, Heroes Media Group. You can find out all the podcast shows, all the podcast episode shows, and all of the new articles and events that we have coming up the rest of the year. Go to heroesmediagroup.com. Until next time, you've been listening to The Decision Hour.